July, so everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't wanna fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yes, good Saturday morning, everyone. All of those that are watching us live, and good day, whatever time it is, wherever you are. For the rest of everyone, you're watching or listening to Fresh Black Coffee.
Yes, or .Coffee for those geeks out there who
.Coffee.
forget domains unless we put a dot somewhere in there.
.Coffee, yeah. Is that like Indian coffee? No. You know, it's obvious. I never heard that before until somebody was talking about Indian. This person, he was an Indian, and is it feather Indian or dot Indian? I said, feather Indian, dot, what are you talking about? Then it finally hit me that people from East India have
the dot on
the women,
yes.
the women
right.
put, yeah.
Right.
So then I thought, now I wonder, is that a bit racist? You know what I mean? You know, because everything's racist these days in America.
So what?
So what? Yeah, well, that's true. If everything is racist, then nothing's racist, right?
Everybody has a race, so if we talk about their heritage, we're being racist.
That's exactly right. And no one is more racially biased against and more racially assaulted to me than you honkies.
Yeah.
You crackers. Yeah, you fades. You patty people.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just going down the line. I mean, it's so funny. You know, there's like what about two, 3 words, slurs against black people. Well, there's a whole lot of racially disparaging words about white people. And I was trying to run through my whole mind. I was running through the list: Mr. Charlie, Chucks, crackers.
Remember when Elena
Patty Boy, Fade
was in about this time last year? She was in here.
Who?
Elena.
Oh yeah, Elena. Yeah.
And you and her were going. She said, "Yeah, I know what that means."
Yeah, she knew. So she's from California. They don't know all the ones that they use on the East Coast. East Coast and Texas. Oh my goodness, Texas has a whole bunch of them too. You know.
Fact is, I was out in California. This was in the mid '80s. A black church was considering hiring me for the pastoral staff, and we were talking about race issues. They said California has largely escaped that legacy of black oppression in the United States.
Somebody tell the people in San Francisco and in L.A. because they're trying to get reparations.
Right.
Isn't that weird? The least oppressed state for black people in America, probably.
Right. Yes.
And they're the first ones trying to get reparations.
Right.
That's just, those people, you talk about despicable.
Yeah.
Despicable. The despicable Californians. I mean, it's just crazy to how just messed up in the head those people are in California.
Racism exists in direct proportionality to how many liberal college graduates are in the state.
Wow.
The more college liberal arts graduates there are, the bigger the racism problem. If you don't believe it, just ask them, because there's lots of them that'll tell you.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you.
Now, you go out to Idaho, they don't know that racism exists, and it probably doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But you go to, Oregon, oh my God. I mean, right across the mountain range.
Washington.
Oh, it's
just
terrible.
on that whole West Coast, essentially.
Yeah. And really, in Oregon, you talk to folks in Eastern Oregon, it's a whole different world. Yeah. Fact is, most of those counties...
Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon.
Most of those counties in east side of Oregon have voted to secede from Oregon and join Idaho.
Yeah, there's parts of California, too, trying to secede.
Absolutely.
They would like to join. Can you imagine if you had a part of Washington, Oregon, and California?
Yeah.
Cede.
Yeah, Idaho would be secede, a coastal state.
Yeah. Coastal state.
Yeah, because it's really only about the northwest quadrant of Oregon that really likes
And that part of Washington
right,
as well.
yeah, and you follow up there. But, where the Cascades, Sierra Nevada keeps going north and divides.
Well, it started during the hippie movement there in the late 60s, 70s, when they all started moving up there, and they were hanging out at first, I think, more out in the rural areas, and then they started moving into the cities and so forth, and then more and more moved up there. And, of course, University of Washington, University of Oregon became these bastions of liberalism and so forth. So, it's crazy. And in Berkeley, of course, people, remember the naked guy? Do you remember that whole deal? They had a guy, no, there was a guy that became famously known as the naked guy because he just walked around campus naked all the time. And nobody would say anything. Nobody did anything. He was just, that's the naked guy. And I mean, they had laws against indecent exposure, but on the Berkeley campus, it wasn't a problem. The police never came on. Nobody, campus police or Berkeley City police never did anything.
Right.
And so the naked guy just became that guy. Another, and I mean, it's always, by the way, speaking of, have you seen these photos? Of course, they're blurred out now. But there were like these topless women at the White House, on the grounds of the White House. Yeah. I mean, where have we gone? What have they allowed the White House to become?
Right. But you go to the White House and say there are only two sexes, and you're out of here quickly. But you want to run around topless, that's somehow approved. Same with Berkeley. It's okay to do that, but...
Okay, but this is Berkeley. This is the White House.
Yeah.
The White House. The residence of the President of the United States of America.
Yeah.
There's a big difference, okay? Yeah. And they're boldly posing, and I can't remember whether I saw one of the photos was with Biden, but it was somebody high up, and I just couldn't believe it. I said, "You have got to be kidding me."
Yep, we got to call in the exterminators, fume the place out when they're gone.
Oh my goodness,
that's horrible.
Yeah, they really do. They need to do a deep dive into checking it out because you can't allow. No, it's out of control. Honestly, America. If Billy Graham said something. This was back, I think, when the Clintons became president, and he said that if God doesn't judge America soon, he will have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
I mean, and we thought it was bad then.
Yeah.
Look at now.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to go back over something from that I failed to cover last week.
Okay, and then I've got some follow-up, too, on last week's show.
Oh, okay. Well, look, there we go. See, we want to review. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, okay, her kids out on her patio of the State House, the governor's mansion. You've heard this.
Yeah.
They did this chalk drawing, and actually for little kids, I don't know how old these kids are. They're pretty young, maybe 10, 9, 11 or something in that range. Let's put it this way. They're not in junior high yet, but they did a chalk drawing of a cross. But it's not just some little simple cross. It's colorful, and it's blue and red and maybe some yellows. Beautiful chalk drawing. But these kids drew it out on the sidewalk leading up to the doorway of the mansion.
It's where the kids live.
Right, it's where they live. And, of course, the freedom from religion people are dear atheists. Got nuts. They went nuts.
Of our virtue.
Right. And so, anyway, they demanded that this large cross, and it resembles a stained glass window. Yeah. It's very colorful. Yeah. So anyway, these people went nuts, and they demanded an apology and wanted something done about it. Well, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, being who Sarah Huckabee Sanders is, being another Trump in female form, she responded with this nice letter.
Oh, can't wait.
Yes, and it says, I have received your letter, and my answer is no.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been enough right there. Yeah. But I will not erase the beautiful cross my kids drew in chalk on the driveway of the governor's mansion or remove my post on social media. Because she took a photo of it and posted it on social media.
Proud mama moment.
And I will not now or ever hide that I am a Christian saved by Christ. You know, it's kind of funny because they wanted her to back down and remove this, but they actually pushed her to make it a bigger deal, to publicize it even greater, give her a megaphone almost. Mm-hmm. I will not now or ever hide that I am a Christian saved by Christ, the governor declared in her letter of response. You are wrong to claim that our Constitution prevents public officials, let alone their families, from making earnest expressions of religious faith. Our founding documents are riddled with religious language, stating plainly that the very rights you claim to defend are endowed by our Creator. You're asking me to ignore the truth and hide the crucial part of my identity and the identity of my kids. That I will not do. I am offended. Now she's offended. Go, Sarah. Yeah. I am offended by the implication that just because I'm a Christian, I am somehow a bigot. Mm-hmm. All people of all faiths are welcome in our state. All Arkansans are welcome in the governor's mansion. Let's see, is there a page 2? I may not have a page 2. I think I just stopped there.
I think we got the gist.
Oh, yeah. I think that was, but basically, I think that was it. Yeah. That all Arkansans, that's how you pronounce that. Mm-hmm. All Arkansans. Excuse me, I'm not from around here. But man, you go, Sarah. I tell you what, that lady is endowed by our Creator with gifts. She is a gifted woman, I'll tell you. And she, of all the people that served under Donald J. Trump, took on the spirit of Donald J. Trump. Mm-hmm. And I pray that she would rise as high as she may go. She may be the first lady president. Mm-hmm. She could be. Yeah. I would support her, and I think she would have a lot of people behind her.
I see a lot of Maggie Thatcher in that young woman.
Well, I see more than that. I'll tell you what. I mean, she is. It would be a blessing to have her as. But you were going to then review some.
Yeah, some more news carryover from last week. So last week we were honored to have great guy Joe Krolichek, the Tulsa Area Emergency Management Director. And one of the things that shocked me early on, he said the governor still has not requested federal aid. And I'm thinking, this is 2 weeks after the fact. And I said, I think we got a breaking story here because I hadn't heard it. Darren Gantz, the assistant county commissioner, deputy commissioner, he hadn't mentioned it. So as soon as I get out of here, I text Darren. I said, is that true? And he, in so many words, and I won't quote Darren because you don't want to get Darren in trouble. But then I called Randy Crable, one of the top government reporters in the state. He is a great
Tulsa World.
Yeah, it's with Tulsa World. And I'm not.
Let's not get him in trouble either.
Yeah, but I said, hey, did you know this? He says, no, I hadn't thought of it. He knew that Greg Treat had done the declaration that allowed state agencies to respond a little more freely, but they actually asking for the federal government to help. And Crable said, no, there are some agencies, the federal government, such as Department of Agriculture, which runs food stamps, they were already offering assistance, assuming people had spoiled food and stuff. But the FEMA thing, he focused on that. And he says, I'm going to get into it. I can't hear myself at all. I'm on one.
I know.
Did we lose this?
It's strange because
No,
I did, I shut 2 off.
Yeah. There. Now I'm back on. How about that? Well, last week we had big time gremlins.
Yeah, let me just check something. Hold on. All right, talk.
Can't hear you.
No, you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on.
I cannot hear myself. Wait a minute. I can hear me. I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, you don't need to hear me.
Okay. All right. So anyway, yeah, it's this cough button. All right. So Gray will see how I'll get on that. And then later on in the day, he gets back to me. Guess what? Just today, Stitt just made the request. So I think somebody at Stitt's office is watching their show. Because I was ready to make him pay price for that. And I won't tell you what Darren Gantz had to say, but believe me, our county government and the city of Tulsa is furious because there's things they want to do, but they can't responsibly do it without knowing they're going to get federal help. And people are in great need, and they're waiting for somebody to help them out. And I'm just talking about clearing the streets of all the, the refuse and, the limbs and stuff, and the habitat now for rodents to come in. We've got to take care of this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's good news, and thank God, Joe come on the show, alert us to it, and within hours it was done.
Well, good.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that that FEMA has responded positively to the governor's request.
Well, I haven't heard that there's been a federal declaration.
Oh.
I can't say that. The request is made. You have to make the
request.
request.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's what we were discussing. The governor had not made the request last week.
Yeah.
And we still haven't heard whether there's been a response or not.
Crable said something that I think I should repeat. He said, now, it could be that the governor's waiting for a more substantial claim in collecting it from numerous counties. Because remember, this was several counties in. Yeah. And, Darren, others in county government have said, no, you can amend your request as many times as you need to as you find out greater severity.
Yes. I also wonder, though, if the governor isn't worried that there are, as there so often are, strings attached. Yeah. When you go to the feds, there's strings attached. If you want this.
Let me put it this way, though. A municipal government can choose whether or not to accept that.
Right.
And so that's on them. As far as the governor, when the federal government says, okay, we will provide this, you can still refuse it if there's too many strings attached.
Right.
The next thing I want to say, I'll be real quick on this. There is the philosophical argument of how much should government get involved in bailing states out? Like, how many times have they rebuilt Florida, right, from hurricanes? Eventually you say, you know what? You decided to build on the beach. Okay. Yeah. So there's that statement which you can agree with, and I do. But there's also the position of, if we're going to provide it, by God, we're going to provide it equally for everybody in need, including Oklahomans. And you cannot dismiss it and say, no, conservatives need not apply because you're philosophically opposed to it. No, it belongs to everybody equally.
Sure.
Yeah, so, all right, so there's that. I do have something else from Crable. Remember when he was in last fall, and we were trying to find out, actually in summer, who is paying these millions and tens of millions of dollars in hit pieces against the governor, Kevin Stitt? And I suggested on air that it's probably the tribes.
Yeah.
And he refuted that. He was confident it wasn't.
Yeah, I said it too. I mean, it was plain. It was obvious the tribes were after the governor.
Yes, you knew they were upset with him.
Right.
So I asked him again last Saturday, and I said, "Who do you think is behind that?" He says, "I think it was Paycom's top leadership big corporation there. And I think the tribes. And I said, really? No, I asked you that. And, and I said, Randy, okay, there's what you knew then and what you know now. Based on what you know now, you're speculating the tribes were. So I don't think he's contradicting himself. I think it's a nuance. I think he has more.
No, true. But yeah, no. I mean, I think you and I, we both, it was clear to us.
Yeah.
The tribes were after him.
Yeah, that was our gut feeling.
It was more in the gut for me.
Okay.
It was I believe the tribes were behind it as much as I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. Because they literally hate this governor back to the moment he started fighting them over the tax, the tribal taxes.
The gaming.
The gaming, right, the gaming compact. And so and that never ended. And I think that's the one area that I totally support the governor in 100%.
Yeah, I only say gut feeling because we didn't have any actual smoking gun type evidence. Just like the cocaine they found in the White House. I can't prove it was Hunter, but I've got a gut feeling.
Well, yeah, no, but in this case, it's a little. I was more convinced that the tribes were behind trying to get rid of the governor than I am that it's Hunter's cocaine. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty. Yeah, I feel strongly like you do about. But as far as it was so obvious that the tribes wanted to get rid of the governor that it was a no-brainer.
Well,
but
you have to find people who, one, have deep enough pockets, and two, are politically motivated.
Right.
There aren't that many players.
The other thing is, see, it's hard to, because again, the way the rules are, it's harder to find money in the tribes than it is, dark money. The money is even darker.
Oh, yeah, the layers.
Right, the layers than it is trying to find it anywhere else. Absolutely. Because we can't. And again, you can't, it drives me nuts. To me, it's insane. Mm-hmm. I hate this. I am a big fan of Native Americans. Okay, let me just say that first. Native Americans as individuals. I hate the tribes. I particularly do not care for the 5 so-called civilized. I hate that term, the 5 civilized tribes, because right there, when you call them civilized, that means the other ones are all savages. If I were not one of those 5 tribes, I'd be ticked off all the time. Absolutely. At who do they think they are? It'd be like, all the black people, right. Obama and him, or how many black people used to talk, or still do. I guarantee you, Obama and all the people in that strata, the people on Martha's Vineyard, the black people on Martha's Vineyard, I don't want them niggas on my island. Mm-hmm. It's the same type of deal. Yeah, it's the 5 civilized tribes talking. This is how they think of the other Indians. I don't want them niggas on my sphere.
You're right.
It's wrong. It's not right. You've got like a 2-tier system of Native Americans, and that's why you can have all these rich and wealthy Native Americans who can live off the res in mansions, making all this money from smoke shops or casinos or however they make it, or the oil, land rights, all of these things, and then you've got the ones living on the reservations.
Right.
And these guys with the land rights and this and this and this are still getting the same benefits of university benefits and this and this and this and these I don't know what you would call them. Well, I'm gonna just. Yeah. I can't think of the term right now because I'm trying to put a fire hose worth of water through this pea brain. But anyway,
well, while you're thinking of that, let me just clarify.
Well, no, let me just finish my thought, my overall thought. Okay, you've got a 2-tier system, and it can't work. You've got. It's like me being a German, wanting to be a German and have all my German rights here as a foreigner. And if I had special rights, let's say, but yet at the same time wanting all of my American rights. You can't do that. Or you can. The only people who can do that are Native Americans. They're the tribes. Yeah. They're the only ones who have a dual citizenship with dual benefits in this nation.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not right.
Okay. I'm going to say, to clarify a term you used, what they call the civilized tribes. That's not a title that the white man put on them. That was a term they, for decades in Oklahoma, referred to themselves by, and it was their way of
differentiating,
throwing the other tribes under the bus to say we're better than them. The same way they threw the blacks under the bus, say you guys are going to serve us, and they had slaves, right? So I want to say that. The second thing I'm going to say is,
for somebody, can you talk more in your mic or do this? Move it more like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing I want to say is I will not refer to them as the Native Americans because I am a Native American. You can't become a president of the United States unless you're native-born American.
Born American, right? Sure.
Right. So I'm not going to use that term, other than anybody born here is Native American.
Well, here's the other thing. Let me just throw this in real quick. Okay, how many true 100% original tribal members are blonde, blue-eyed?
Yeah.
And how many do you see?
Right.
How many Cherokee do you see? And I know several.
Yeah.
That look like Aryans. I mean, Hitler would be proud of them.
Yeah.
And yet they're full tribal members of the Cherokee tribe.
The famous racist chief of the Choctaws, Greenwood LaFleur.
Greenwood, which
his dad was full Frenchman. Okay, happened to marry the chief's daughter, and then their son becomes chief eventually. But that's what I'm saying. And besides that, even the tribal entities that came to North America came through the Bering land bridge from Siberia.
Yeah.
They're Asians.
the Chinese.
Yes. They're Asians
Right.
that have come over here. Now, we've gotten, distinctions we make in bloodlines by races. Have you ever gotten your test from 23andMe or is it 20?
It's 23andMe.
Okay, and or Ancestry.com where they do your DNA check. I've done that. And
I just have mine from me, myself, and I.
there you go. And it was interesting because my black son-in-law is just as much Belgian as my daughter is. And she's born with a Belgian name, And so, yeah. So, I mean, we're all shades of beige, right? And so, anyway, so yeah, that's it. And the tribes, Crable now thinks, there's a good chance.
Yeah,
They
yeah. How did we get there from Randy Crable? We
I
chased.
circled back.
We chased a rabbit and a few turkeys on the way to. No,
But I circled back.
yeah, we can circle back. Yeah, no. Here, like for example, to me, see, one of my big heroes, honestly, one of the American hero, is Crazy Horse. Okay, I love Crazy Horse. In fact, I want a shirt. If somebody has one, I'll have it made. It's, I am Crazy Horse. Okay.
There you go.
Because I have the spirit of Crazy Horse. I think that the January 6th spirit of the people of January 6th is the spirit of Crazy Horse. The whole thing behind Crazy Horse and the Lakota people, which is a branch of the Sioux, the Lakota people, all they wanted was to be free and to chase the buffalo. Wherever the buffalo, in the summer, the buffalo were in the north, in the winter they went south. But the white man who spoke with a forked tongue, they told him, no, you must live in this reservation. And Crazy Horse said, no, I do not want to live on your reservation that you're telling us. All my life, my people, who were born here, we were able, this is our place. And you're going to tell us all of a sudden, I can't live here, I can't do this, and this. You're going to take that from me and make me stay in this place? No. When the buffalo go, I go. Where the buffalo go, I go. That's what the true spirit of January 6th was, saying, what? You want me to wear a mask? when you don't even know if these shots work. You're telling me that this virus is this and it's not proven. You're telling me my kids have to go to this school when these teachers are teaching this, which we know is not right. You're doing this and this. You're taking my money and you're doing this, and I don't approve of this and this, but you're making us. This is the same thing. We're fighting essentially the same fight that Crazy Horse and the Lakota were fighting back 200 years ago. Sure. Almost 300 years ago now, actually. Wow, man, time flies. Gee. So anyway, but that is what we have to deal with, and that's what but these so-called civilized tribes, it's a whole different thing. And I don't hate the civilized tribes. No, not at all. But I do not care for the distinction that has been made and the way that they're treating the rest of the citizenry of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And even within themselves, there's a little hierarchy. You know, I would say you've got the Creek here and you got the Cherokee. It's almost like the Cherokee are like the hierarchy of the civilized tribes, and the Choctaw are probably up there with them.
Choctaw and Chickasaw think that they're a pure blood.
Oh, really?
Oh, God, yeah. Have you seen the commercials? I'm proud that I'm Chickasaw.
Yeah, but when it comes to all of the money, it's the Cherokee and the Choctaw.
Right. They have the biggest land.
Right.
Bases.
And I didn't even know, really, until recently, the Seminole are one of them, that they're here.
Yeah, they're tiny.
I know they're tiny because they've got their big deal in Florida still. They were smart. They have roots everywhere. But anyway, at least they're kind of quiet and they stay under the radar. But it's just we cannot survive. As Jesus once said, and Abraham Lincoln quoted, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." You cannot have a state with two different nations. You can't have, and now we're talking 5+1. So you five nations, Indian nations, or Native American, whatever you want to call it, and then a United States nation. So it's 6 nations, and we're all going to claim. And then if you want to be black, then we've got our own African American nation. So now we're at 7, and now we're bringing in people, the Iranians and the Afghanis and the
Somalians.
And so you've got all these little nations here, and we want our own thing. And when I don't like yours, no, I'm doing my own thing. I'm sorry, people, it's not going to work. You cannot build a nation. You cannot have a nation survive. A house divided cannot long survive.
Right.
And that's where we are. And it's got to stop.
So true.
So back to your original, Randy.
Yeah.
Circling back.
And I think Randy would love to come on in. So we're going to have to book a time for
Yeah,
him.
we need to.
He's a great guy. He
is. No,
it's good to get his perspective because he doesn't claim an ideology camp, you know. And there's very few journalists who avoid that. I mean, we're obvious what we believe. Yeah. You know. He's
gained my respect. No, he really has.
By the way, did we cover last week the 10th Circuit ruling that if you're a tribal member, you don't pay speeding tickets in Tulsa?
Oh, yeah.
Not in Tulsa courts.
Yeah, that's another insane. See, that's another. I don't know how. Well, let's put it this way. I understand the court's ruling, and I think what the court is saying that legislatively, you guys have to change this. Mm-hmm. But the way the legislation reads now, this is how it is. They're saying that we somehow, somewhere back there, when somebody wrote these treaties, this is how it is.
Yeah, I disagree with you on that.
Okay.
Because the McGirt ruling came out of that 10th Circuit Court, the same folks, okay? Mm-hmm. But if you look at all the actions of the tribes
Right.
since '07 and all the actions of the state, all the actions are consistent with a universal assumption that the reservations are no more. And I'm saying based on that, you have to determine whether or not there was actual bills passed in federal Congress or not. It's essentially like a common law marriage. Whether there was a ceremony or not, they've been living together like this for 7 years, therefore they're married.
Yeah,
By common law.
but
And I think that exists.
But the court is saying, though, but what the court is now saying is that doesn't. Let's make it official. If you want it to be that way, let's make it that way. Send it back to the courts, or not to the court, but to the legislature. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to break the treaty or change the laws, which is what I'm saying. If you really want to deal with it, Native Americans, you're either going to become Americans and like everybody else. You can call yourself original Americans,
Right.
like we call ourselves African American or Chinese and Asian Americans or whatever, European Americans, whatever you want to call yourself. But you're going to become full Americans, and we're not going to have reservations. Officially, there will be no more reservations, and the U.S. government will now have authority over your tribal land.
Okay, but-
there will be no more tribal. There should be no tribal land.
We assumed there wasn't.
But that's the problem. You know what happens when you assume, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just saying, here's what happened. The year before,
Right.
the 5 tribes that we refer to, the better than the rest tribes, went to the federal government and said, we would like to become a state. And they said, we'd like to be known as the state of Sequoia. And it would have 5 subdivisions, counties, if you will, parishes, or what the Louisiana folks call it. But each of those would be the tribal boundaries of the Choctaws, the Cherokees, the Chickasaw, and that Congress rejected it.
Right.
Okay. So they didn't get to do that. That's what they wanted.
Right.
Now they're saying we want what we got in '07 and what we got denied in '06. They want it both ways.
Right.
And just for them.
Right.
And what that does to me, it makes me an alien in my own city.
Yeah. And so Congress should basically say, okay, now not only did we not give you what we wanted the last time, we're going to take away what you already had.
Yeah.
And that treaty is null and void. Boom. It's done.
Yeah.
And you can kick off the what do you call them? The freedmen from your tribe. If you want, you do that, but we're taking away all your tax rights.
And there's another issue. When we had Mark Wayne Mullen in the studio, he mentioned about what the Cherokees did. They had dissolved their reservation even before that. They just split up their
Assimilated
land,
into the
2 families, heads of household.
right.
And the agreement at statehood was that tribal land that each family got was going to be exempt from property tax. So Mark Wayne Mullen is telling us he doesn't pay property tax on his ranch.
Right.
And
So wherever they live now is exempt from property tax.
as long as they own it in their family name
Right.
and don't sell it to somebody else,
Right.
whoever they sell it to is going to pay taxes.
Right, yeah. But as long
Even
as
if they sell it to another tribal member. But that allotment that each family got, they're getting something you and I don't get.
yeah.
That's already a 14th Amendment violation of our equal protection under the law. And we
Look at the adoption. That's the other thing. The adoption situation. That if I want to, I cannot adopt a child that's an Elizabeth Warren child, let's call it.
yeah,
1/1000th of a drop of Native American blood.
right.
I can't adopt it
Yeah.
because it's got to be adopted by a Native
Yeah,
American.
you can adopt a Russian baby and bring them over. They'll
African baby,
Yeah.
Chinese, Japanese, you name it.
Yeah. But the tribe claims ownership over anybody with tribal blood in there.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the mother, right, even if the mother is 100% Anglo or black or whatever they may be, and the child is 50% African American, let's say, and the mother passes away, the tribe has a right to take that baby back. I mean, come on, that's insane stuff.
We need to invite back who we had in a couple of years ago, Wes Fire and Michael Staub, who was his campaign manager, to discuss this vague term called sovereignty that you always hear, especially the Cherokees talk about for sovereignty, but you ask them to define sovereignty. Well, it's constantly changing definition. It's whatever they think they can get politically.
Yeah, because as soon as you ask, okay, so sovereignty, does that mean you don't get any U.S. tax money or tax dollars for education for this and this? Well, no, it doesn't mean that. It's like you said, it's whatever benefits. It's what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine too.
Yeah,
is what it is. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's update on last week.
Okay. Wow. As almost always, we didn't even plan to go there. That's not what we planned to start out with, but
I believe what I said.
It is. Oh, no, we all do. We never say anything we don't believe, as I think you can tell, because we get kind of passionate behind it. Hey, we got a little bit of fire going on in the Democrat Party. The primary, traditionally, New Hampshire is the first state
for primary.
For primary.
Caucus in Iowa.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but the Democrat Party is wanting now to change that, and they're wanting to, the DNC has decided they want South Carolina to be the first state with the primary.
And why do you think that is?
Well, it's because those people, my people, essentially turned the election around for Joe Biden last time.
It was finally a state Joe could win in the Democrat primary.
Exactly. So they don't want Joe to lose, because I have a feeling that RFK Jr. just might win the Democrat primary in New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah.
And that would send not a good signal. In fact, there would be a few different people that might, a few different states. If they left it like it was, it could be like it was before. And this time, South Carolina may not pull him out, because he's losing some of the momentum in South Carolina. So this way, what they can do, they can focus all of their attention on having him win South Carolina right up front, and then hopefully just keep everybody else in line from there. But New Hampshire is not playing ball. The state official in New Hampshire is poised to upend Joe Biden's DNC-approved 2024 primary calendar. President Biden's revamping of the calendar is headed for a clash with New Hampshire's cherished, generations-old position as the first in the state primary. New Hampshire has a law that says we will go at least 7 days before any similar event. So they have a state law. They have a law that says that. And New Hampshire Secretary of State Dave Scanlon told Fox News Digital of this in his state office. The DNC has voted to make New Hampshire fall after South Carolina. Scanlon is firm that the Secretary of State schedules the date of the New Hampshire primary, and it's called the first in the nation.
Yes.
And the reason, of course, for this, as we said, is that New Hampshire's would turn things around for Biden in 2020 when he was losing due to the black vote. Yeah. So they got, what's his name? What's the black congressman from South Carolina?
Jim Scott.
No. The Democrat.
Oh.
Clyburn. James Clyburn.
Oh, yeah. Clyburn.
Jim Clyburn.
The kingmaker.
Well, Yeah. Anyway, he pushed all the black people in South Carolina to vote for Joe. I'm not even sure that could backfire. They may not turn out this time.
I think so. And here's the thing I want to say.
That would be a really bad then if that happened. If he lost in South Carolina, that would be really bad.
When a state decides they're going to use a caucus system to determine who their delegates are going to support, that is completely run by the political party, independent of state government. When you switch over to a primary, now you've got the state government paying for a party process. And I think as a purist, I have to oppose it. Okay.
Wait, you oppose what?
I'm opposed to
a primary
using the government's election system in the state to run a primary, because that's a government function, whereas a caucus is run completely by the party. They pay for it, they own it, they set their own rules.
Oh, now I got you. You're opposed to the government running the primary. Or the party
I'm
running.
I'm opposed to using the primary process to pick a party's nominee or the delegates to go to, in this case, the national convention. Because it's not a state function, it's a party's function. The state should not be paying the cost of a party making its selection process. It just shouldn't happen.
Wait, okay. I'm confused. Are you opposed to people being able to vote in a primary, or are you opposed to the way that the people who end up going to represent that vote?
I'm opposed to the state government making up the rules of a political party's selection process. When they make the rules, they're controlling how that party operates, how it selects who's even a valid candidate, for instance. And we have it here. The only way you get around that is if you have what Louisiana and California have, is what we call a jungle primary, where you put everybody in. If you got 8 Democrats and 14 Republicans, you put them all in one in the top 2, and they might be both Democrat, they might be both Republican. And there's problems I don't like politically with that, but at least that is the only way in which the state is not paying just for a party's own selection process. So what happens in Iowa, the government of Iowa cannot control that. What happens in New Hampshire, the government does control that. And so in New Hampshire, the party themselves cannot say, no, we'd rather let South Carolina go first. Parties have lost control of their own party. In Oklahoma, it's that way. You know, and this is the problem I have with that. I do favor the caucus system. Listen, all the states used to use the caucus systems to select their delegates.
Well, no, but the way it, okay, but yeah, so what you're favoring then would let the Democrat Party just make the switch. You're saying you're in favor of the DNC being able to tell New Hampshire you have to go after South Carolina.
No, I'm saying the Democrat Party in South Carolina, if they want to flout, state law, they should just move to a caucus system. Kentucky did that.
No, I know, but that's not the issue here. The issue here is that New Hampshire is fighting it to stay. In other words, their government is saying, no, we're staying first because that's hard. But the way you're saying it, the party would be able to make them say, oh, yeah, South Carolina, you go ahead.
If they move to a caucus where they pay the bills, they do all the function like Iowa does.
Right.
And in Oklahoma used to do until 88 was the first time they switched. And that's the thing.
But see, I don't think I agree with that. And here's the reason. The reason I don't agree with it is because at that point, you give all the power over to the party, and it takes it away from. In other words, let's leave the Democrats out of it. Okay, so Oklahoma then would be turning everything over to the RNC.
Well, no, to the Oklahoma party.
Well, yes, but the Oklahoma party then would be essentially subject to the RNC.
That's true. If they want to be allowed in at that national convention.
Exactly. So basically it's the RNC that is running our state stuff.
Well, they set their criteria. And, we have just as many members on the RNC, Central Committee as any other state.
Right.
But that's how you organize a national party. You got to have some organization.
Yeah, but I think the way it is now, it gives us a little more clout, a little more power by being, and not just us. I'm not just speaking of Oklahoma. I think it just gives the states a little bit more clout to be able to jockey for position. And it's the American spirit that every state would like to have a little more power, and every individual would like to have a little more power to stand up against the bullying of the state party.
Oh, you're incorrect on one thing.
Okay.
In 2012, Florida decided they wanted to bump up and go third or fourth in the deal. Mm-hmm. The RNC had rules. They said, we're having these 4 early cutout ones, one in the north, one in the south, east, and west, and Florida wasn't one of them. But they went ahead anyway.
Right.
When it came time to seating those delegates in the National Convention, they penalized them half. There was a distinct penalty. So the RNC and the DNC still have their rules for seating them. The problem is, because of this primary system, they have to work out a deal with state governments. Because for Florida, Republicans say, wait a minute, this is what our legislature said we're going to be in the RNC. We don't care what they said. We said Florida cannot go before March 1st.
Right.
And they did. And so they still punished them. You have a mess right now because the government's paying for the election. If it was caucuses, much like when Rand Paul ran for president in Kentucky, it said you can't run for U.S. Senator and president in the same primary because they did. And so Rand Paul said, I want to move us to a caucus state. And for that year, Kentucky was caucus because it was 2 separate processes. Mm-hmm. So when selecting national delegates for president, they used caucus. And Rand Paul still ran in the primary for U.S. Senator. It's a mess when you have the government paying for a private organization's functions. That's why. And I know we're getting in the weeds on this.
No. I understand. It's just I get worried when you give too much power to a party.
It's their organization.
I understand that, but to keep the organization more legit, I think you need to have something bigger.
That's like letting the government choose what the doctrine of your church is.
No.
Yes, it is, Eddie.
Well,
Look, paying your own bills for your own functions, that's what keeps you independent.
But that's a different issue, okay? Well, yeah, but no. Paying your own bills, nobody pays their own bills. That's why you have insurance, right? That's why you have insurance, and that's why. No. I'm just telling you facts. I mean, it's the facts. Nobody pays their own bills anymore. Doctors still get government money.
Didn't we argue that nobody should be compelled to buy insurance? Wasn't that our fight against Obamacare? It's a voluntary thing to get insurance.
Yeah, it is a voluntary. It's supposed to be, right? Yeah. Right? Yeah, it is, but it's good to have insurance. I think the biggest problem with Obamacare is it's not that it's bad to have insurance. It's the type of insurance that they're trying to force you to get is what this, which is another whole conversation. We don't want to get away from where we are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just I mean, so basically you're saying you're on the side of the DNC that should be allowed to tell New Hampshire you've got to go after South Carolina.
What I'm saying is the South Carolina Democrats and the DNC should pay for their own primary bills and run it themselves, which by definition becomes a caucus.
Well, yeah, but that's essentially, isn't it, what they're already doing?
But you've got Republican taxpayers in South Carolina paying for a Democrat election.
Okay, but that's not the issue. That's not what we're arguing about. We're arguing about the dates. We're arguing not who should be paying for or whatever. We're arguing about who can have it on what date.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm saying if the state government is paying for that election,
right,
they ought to be the ones deciding when it's going to be.
Well, right, but it's the DNC that's deciding.
And that's the problem, isn't it?
Well, no, but South Carolina is happy to go with the DNC.
Right.
There's let us be first.
And what happened, I gave you my example 10, 11 years ago in Florida. Right. Florida legislature said, no, we're going to be one of the first states. And then their delegates didn't get seated because they broke the party's rules. The party gets to set their own rules.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm missing something here. I think I'm missing because basically it's still the DNC that is deciding about South Carolina. Either way, the DNC wins. According to your way, the DNC wins either way because they've convinced South Carolina that they should be first, and so South Carolina said, "Yes, we want to be first. They're first." New Hampshire gets screwed either way.
But again, Eddie, my argument is much like what Iowa said. No, we're still going to have ours when we said we're going to do it.
New Hampshire.
Well, but Iowa as well.
No, forget Iowa. We're talking about New Hampshire and South Carolina right now.
Well, yeah, that's
you keep throwing stuff in that confuses the fact. Just deal with New Hampshire and South Carolina right now. Okay. Let's just limit it to that.
Let's pretend there's only 2 states.
Yes, let's just deal with that.
Okay. But yeah, they cannot dictate to New Hampshire when New Hampshire decides they're of the process.
Right.
Right? I mean, Bush v. Gore, the legislatures were given the power through a constitution.
Exactly. That's because it's the way it's set up now.
Right.
But the way you're saying it, if they both go to caucuses, then the 2 caucuses would have to fight it out. But what if each one keeps trying to push it a day before the other one or a week before?
That happened in 2008.
So they end up having it in 2022 or 23?
Yes. Yes, it was like January 2nd was Iowa. I mean, they had to move up because and then Alaska went before them. And in fact, in 96, Louisiana had a December caucus. Yeah.
Yeah. See that.
But you
we're
know what
starting
happened
to get ridiculous.
is the Iowa Republicans said any candidate who campaigns in Louisiana, we ain't going to vote for you. And that's where Phil Gramm made his mistake, is he said, I'm going to go win Louisiana. And Pat Buchanan cleaned his clock down there. And Phil Gramm still lost Iowa, to Bob Dole. So, but yes, this is the competitive nature of things. But
right.
I don't have a problem with that. I really don't.
Right.
Let them do. I'm just saying, pay your own bills.
Oh yeah, well no. See, I'm not arguing with that. I mean, my whole point is that the whole purpose of this article and the whole purpose of me bringing it up wasn't about who pays for it, how it's done. My whole purpose of bringing it up was merely to point out that the DNC is trying to get South Carolina to be first because that's where they figure Biden can win.
Yep.
And avoid Bobby Jr. From being.
You remember what happened 4 years ago in Iowa? Biden came in 5th.
Yeah. Well, he lost everything until they got to South Carolina.
Yeah, Clyburn saved his butt.
He saved him, and that turned everything around. And they don't want to face that again. They want him to start off on a winning.
Well, I say that saved him along with the offer that you couldn't refuse. Remember all the capitulating of everybody that dropped out of the race and endorsed Biden? And 2 weeks earlier, they said, no way that Democrats are going to go with him. I mean, Klobuchar was one of them. There's several of them that all of a sudden, I mean, you look at what's happening. This is mafia stuff.
Oh, sure. We know it's
AOC this week endorsed Biden's reelection.
Well, you know who's behind all this?
Well, I called it mafia, but what do you say?
Obama.
Yeah.
The puppet master.
Yeah.
It's really, remember that they've got some tape where Obama's saying, what if I could be president remotely?
So what Obama is keeping everybody else out. So at the right time, we'll find out Joe Biden's only coherent when he has cocaine. No, there's something to that, because when you're losing your mind, a stimulant, Adderall is one of the big ones. Actually gives you temporary.
Okay, so you're saying the cocaine is not Hunter's; it's Joe's.
I'm saying
breaking news.
Your lucidness is enhanced by stimulants, things that get your brain going. Okay,
right.
I'm not saying that he's a cocaine addict, but listen, who is the guy from Texas, congressman, who was the presidential physician? Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Was it Johnson was his name?
For Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I know who you mean.
Yeah, he's a congressman.
Yeah, right, he's a congressman now, yeah.
But he was the one that said they're probably pumping him full of Adderall. Which is a brain stimulant.
But then he has his downer moments. That's why he's walking weird after one of these times. Yeah.
It gives you a few hours of coherence.
Right.
Yeah.
Man,
it's
crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
And
yeah.
all it takes is cutting off your drugs.
Yeah.
And so look, who do you think's really been running the West Wing?
Well, there's
Obama's machine.
Yeah, well, exactly. They say it's Obama is still in charge. But here's the thing, too, though. See, I'm still not. Be honest with you, I'm still not convinced that Michelle's not going to get in it.
Yeah, I know.
I think he's just holding the place right now. And then at the last moment, it's just too early for her right now.
Yeah.
And at the last, because, see, they don't want her out there too early where she can get attacked.
Yeah, it's called the Nathan Dom strategy.
The NDS.
Yeah,
we'll give it its own. Yeah, we'll give her its own name, the NDS, where Michelle and everybody. Oh yes, and okay, just vote for something. Just Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah, but
and she'll do all of the morning shows, all of the nighttime shows, and she'll do all of it.
Nobody will have time to dig up.
Nobody will be able to attack her or anything, and you just.
But
next Tuesday.
Yeah, but I got to say, Dick Morris, who knows the Clintons well, says Hillary definitely is getting in.
Really? Hillary too. So that'll be nice. It'll be Hillary.
Catfight.
Hillary and Michelle. And then, So anyway, well, this has been a good discussion.
Yeah, but by the way, on Hillary, I don't know how coherent she is because her health was terrible.
Yeah, it was last time.
And that was almost 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Remember they had to help her in the van?
Oh, I remember when she collapsed there. And then one time she was coming down she was coming down the steps and she was having a problem. No.
She's in bad shape.
Yeah, she is. She's not in good shape. So we don't know. We'll see. It is going to be an interesting time here. We've got another year before it actually gets going.
6 months.
Oh, you think 6 months?
Well, South Carolina's in about 6 months.
Really?
Yeah.
The primaries this year already.
We're in July now. 6 months from now will be 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where have I been? So January of next year, we have a new president already.
No, we have our first primaries in January. The first.
Oh, that's right. 6 months is. See, I missed a month. We're 6 months from 2024. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am, man. I'll tell you what. It's weird. It's like I'm waking up. With my mom passing away.
Yeah, I know.
It was funny because even this week in my insurance business, I was communicating with this. We call it general agency. It's in between the companies and us. And I was communicating with this underwriter.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like, wow, where have I been? You know, it was all of a sudden like I'm back, you know, but it's almost like I've been in kind of I don't know, out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't even realize we're already halfway through this year.
Yeah.
So 24 begins in 6 months. When you said 6 months, I think, wait a minute, that's November.
No, that whole process lasts a whole year.
Yeah, we're in July already. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, from January 6th, right?
Yeah, January 6th.
That happened a year after the first primaries, right?
Yeah.
And actually, there again, Iowa, because this party's ran, just decided not to have a caucus.
By the way, speaking of January 6th, did you see where one of the Proud Boys, he's, I guess, the number 2 guy, they just sentenced him to 6 years? Yeah. It's a shame. I mean, that's, if for no other reason, I want Trump to become president, just so he can pardon everybody, just get them all out of there, because that is the biggest.
This is as bad as the Soviet Union ever was.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah,
really. Tell it to the people there.
Yeah,
we got to do a different thing with the camera, because you're always we're always facing this way, and you're never looking
you're right.
at the
No,
people.
this was a Soviet style move, and it's sad. I mean, even to the putting up of the barricade fences around the compound, it turning into a Kremlin, if you will.
It's I feel so badly for those people, but and if you think about Enrique Tarrio,
yes,
here he is, he wasn't even there.
Right.
He wasn't there, and they've sentenced him to prison. Oh, and the original thing he went to jail for was stomping on a BLM flag.
I thought he burned it. I think he stole
Well,
it.
yeah, he stole it.
But it wasn't his property.
It was,
Stole it. That's what made it.
A BLM flag. Well, people are tearing down other people's American flags all the time. In fact, there was just a video that I saw yesterday. Same thing, pouring gasoline, stomping on an American flag. Nothing to see here. Nobody ever makes a big deal of it. But you step on, I mean, how much can be a BLM flag cost?
Right.
I mean, it's not grand larceny. How can that be worthy of going to jail?
Yeah.
Right? How in the heck can burning, even if you stole it, let's say you stole a BLM flag and you burn it, how can that be worthy of going to jail?
Right.
More than a fine.
Well, it's a hate crime, hating the wrong class. That's the thing. If you say white men are evil, you don't get in trouble. You disparage anybody that's associated with black, there you go.
Even though he's black.
Yeah!
And he's Cuban American.
Yeah, and by the way, I remember Alex Jones mentioning January 6th when I was watching his live coverage, and he said, last night I was talking to Enrico, and he said, this looks like a setup. I'm getting out of here. He literally...
Oh, Enrique said that.
Enrique said that. Before anything happened at the Capitol, Alex Jones quoted what Enrique said. This looks like a setup. I'm getting out of here.
Did you see, I just posted on Facebook, if you guys are Facebook friends of mine, I just posted, there's a new Tucker Carlson. Oh, no, he's with Russell Brand. He was doing the Russell Brand show, and he just said he apparently, one of his last...
Who's with Russell Brand?
Tucker Carlson.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And he had one of his last shows that he recorded, they were getting ready to play this, and when he got fired. And it was with the former chief of the Capitol Police. And he said that the January 6th protest there was riddled with undercover police and FBI agents. Yeah. It was full. The audience, they were just undercover FBI agents everywhere.
We're not as adept at this, those of us on the right, as the left is. This is their game. We can't imagine ever stooping to this level, so we're clueless.
But what gets me is, why do we keep playing it and allowing them to play it? We we continue to do this. We continue to allow them to get away with it. And then we have people like Mitch McConnell and others in Congress that want to play nice and continue to let them get away. We won't do it. We apologize. We retract. We do that. We turn on our own people. I see you saw where Marjorie Taylor Greene has been removed from the Freedom Caucus now, and I still don't know exactly. Do you know why? Have you been following that whole deal?
It hasn't been confirmed. It's out there, but then there's a lack of confirmation.
Yeah. But I wouldn't doubt it if it happens. I mean, it's just that this is how we are. We have these people, we
throw each other under the bus.
Totally. Yeah. And then we're driving the bus too. Yeah. And when we run over each other. And then you've got all the people still trying so hard to make Ron DeSantis this new candidate and get rid of Trump. And I'm thinking, what in the world? Why? Why would you want to make DeSantis the un-Trump when everything he stands for is nothing but Trump, and everything that isn't Trump that he stands for is something that you really don't want? Yeah. It's just sad. The other thing, by the way, I just posted on Facebook is, do you know who Simon Atiba is? Atiba? He's the African correspondent, White House correspondent, the one that they kicked out for a while, then they let him back. He's the only African correspondent.
With an African news agency?
Right.
Of some sort. Yeah.
He's a brilliant guy. Very well. He's on Twitter all the time, and I follow him, and he is Corinne Jean-Pierre's worst nightmare. Yeah. Oh, you can tell she just hates the guy. And Simon just gives her fit. And the other
she can't accuse him of racism, can she?
Right. And the other reporters, you see the other reporters, they get angry at him because he makes them look bad.
Absolutely.
So they don't like it either. Well, anyway, he just reported a new report, and you may have heard this, that the U.S. is now sending these cluster bombs to Ukraine. Yes. You've seen it? This report.
Yes.
Yeah. We're sending cluster bombs, which are banned by several NATO countries.
And yet we make them, and we have them in our arsenal.
And we're now sending them to Ukraine. What could go wrong here?
You're right. Now, if I could, please. I was down at Fort Sill getting a tour by a warrant officer, a non-commissioned officer, I think it was, and I was with the scout troop. And he was explaining, because if you're taught artillery in the Army, you go through Fort Sill for it. That is their baby.
Right, the artillery school.
And they had the Patriot missile batteries there and everything. And then they also had these, which come in these batteries. It's like 9, not cylinders, they're square, but, they'll on the back of a truck. Mm-hmm. And those things will fire off, and then they will open up in all of these little, they'll be like a parachute sort of thing, so that it floats down slowly, this explosive, like a grenade. So you imagine 700 grenades over the area of, say, a couple of football fields. And when they reach a low enough altitude, they ignite from, say, 50 feet in the air. You do that over barracks or field, forward operating base, you kill everything. Mm-hmm. And you decimate. These things are so powerful. That's what we're talking about in these cluster bombs. That's one of the American versions of a cluster munition.
Right. And the problem, they say, is that these things have a fail rate, a high fail rate.
Yes.
And so they lay there.
Yeah, become like a landmine.
Right, exactly. Become a landmine. And then children, later on, after it's all over.
Cute toy. Yeah.
and it just kills innocent civilians and things like that. And that's why they've been banned by many European countries and NATO members. But my question is then, okay, so we're raising the level here a bit by sending these things. So what's Russia's next move?
Yeah, now Russia already has been deploying those.
Right.
Or a similar, their version of it.
Okay, so what's the next move then for Russia? If we're going to meet them, we'll see you.
Mustard gas.
We're going to raise you. Well, I don't think they'll use mustard, but they probably have something else that, what they call them, the tiny nuke, I guess you call it, or whatever, But, I mean, this is getting insane. I mean, it's just like somebody is just, it sounds like a war of pride right now. Mm-hmm. It's just a pride that we're just refusing. No one is wanting to cry uncle. Nobody's wanting to come to the table and say, enough is enough. Something has to stop. Yeah,
there is a report came out last night that there are some secret talks going on, and I don't have any more information than that. Now, early on, Israel took a lead in trying to negotiate something, because there are a lot of Jewish people on both sides still in Russia and Ukraine. That's kind of where a lot of them went. So, yeah, I think getting back to your whole thing about the cluster bombs and stuff, it's only in the last 10, 15 years that several nations have got together, about 30 of them, said, we're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not on the level of how dare anybody uses that nuclear or biological or chemical warfare, So I don't treat it like that bad. Because, again, we used it to take out the Iraqis during the Gulf War. Mm-hmm. It works.
Oh, no, it works.
Yeah.
But that was a different war, too, because you had a defined battlefield.
Yeah.
In other words, we weren't using it over Baghdad. We weren't using it over Ramadi. We're using it so where are they going to use it? Because the next thing you'll know, they'll be sending one into Russia. Well, where in Russia are you going to send it? Yeah. Right?
Right.
I mean, where are the troops? So it's getting ugly.
Yeah, and something I got to say about generally our U.S. military, our military-industrial complex, they make a lot of claims about effectiveness and accuracy and stuff that we only find out months, years later that it was all lies, particularly the Patriot missile system that we used as a defense in the first Gulf War. Almost every deployment was a failure. And the Scud missiles that, were hitting Israel, and then we said we still couldn't stop them. Now, the Israelis developed their own Iron Dome, which is way more effective. But I'm telling you, our military-industrial complex will make all kinds of claims to get those contracts. And a lot of it's lies.
Yeah.
And sadly, we are being lied to in America. It sucks. There's very little left to be proud of in the way I was proud of America in the 70s. Just very little.
Yeah, it's just we've become, Francis Schaeffer's son wrote a book, Addicted to Mediocrity. And unfortunately, he wrote it to the wrong people. Yeah. He totally turned against his father against everything his father lived for and did. Yeah. But the term still sticks that America has become addicted to mediocrity. And we have people in leadership now that, frankly, have no business being in leadership. I mean, there's so much corruption, so much craft. You've got these people in the military and in these government positions that are occupying a space, and what they're really hoping for is the position after this position. They want to be hired by Lockheed Martin. They want to be hired by this company, this General Dynamics, these companies where they can make money after they get out. That's the position they're shooting for now. So that's why they give these contracts out now.
That's happening in military industrial. It's also happening in the medical pharmaceutical.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
In those deals, they're trying to position themselves for the position after this because they're not making. Government doesn't really pay that well when you're in that position, but once you get out, that's where the perks start.
Yeah.
That's where the perks are, and so you try to get yourself prepared for that.
So true.
Position afterwards, and I'll tell you, no one is benefiting from that more than what's his name? He was running for vice president. He's a Republican, and he hates Trump. He's a never Trumper. Oh, Bourne's in-law. He ran as what's his name's running mate. Come on, help me, Dave. Help me.
What's his name's running mate? That's not a clue.
You got it. You're supposed to read my mind. It keeps running. I can see him so clearly. Oh my goodness, what is his name?
What year?
He's what was it? 12?
Romney and Ryan.
Paul Ryan.
Yeah,
Paul Ryan. Yeah, Paul Ryan is one that has managed to get one of those cushy positions.
Yeah, Fox News. I got a story on them. Can I give it?
Please.
All right. So get this. Now, Trump, early on, his first year of his administration was a zoo. Okay? Mm-hmm. It was really disorganized because this is what happens when you got outsiders. In fact, our own Attorney General at the time, Scott Pruitt, becomes EPA thing, and that was a scandal in and of itself. Pruitt is a scandal, okay? And you had the Health and Human Service Secretary, Price, didn't last but a few months because he's using government planes to go on private trips and getting flown around, and only FBI gets to do that, don't you know? And so Trump finally fires him. I mean, he hadn't been there for months. Well, we haven't heard much. And all of a sudden, Fox News has this breaking story of the former Health and Human Services Secretary, Price, is just blasting Trump, just ripping him, and they ran with it.
And this was how long ago?
This was this week.
This week, okay.
2 days ago. And all of a sudden, the real Price
shows up.
Says, I never posted any tweet. I never said it. This wasn't me. And find out it was an imposter. And Fox News never checked it out. Why? Because of, what did Rush Limbaugh call it?
Something bias.
Yes. It is bias confirmation.
Confirmation bias.
Yes. They want to believe that Trump is as horrible as this guy says. They don't want to say it. They want to stick
somebody
a
else.
microphone. He said it, yeah. And they got egg on their face. They are truly faux news, Fox News.
Faux news. Yeah.
Anyway.
You set yourself up that way because when you want something so badly, you want this person to go down so badly because that person has been making you look bad.
Yeah.
So now you're so bent on revenge to make them look bad that you only make yourself look worse.
Right.
And see, the problem with Fox and so many anti-Trumpers.
And Paul Ryan is on the board of Fox.
Right. Oh, yeah. And with so many of these people, the problem is that they try so hard that they're just setting themselves up to dig deeper and deeper and deeper in the hole. Mm-hmm. And they're just hurting themselves rather than, was the old Fisher cut bait? Mm-hmm. Instead of cutting bait and saying, okay, look, this is a part of our history. Or even same with Tucker. Mm-hmm. Instead of just letting it go, moving on, apologizing and say we're going to go back to the model that made us who we are. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to, we're going to truly, what was it? We report, you decide. Mm-hmm. But no, they're still, still trying to report with this little bit of slant. I've noticed it with their reporters. They're hedging on certain aspects of the news when it comes to Trump. Mm-hmm. They don't want to say anything good or positive, and anything negative, they're still kind of letting it, like these insinuations, innuendo and things that they're letting a little bit slip out there. It's not as bad as it was, say, after the election when they really felt like they had some ammo. And this will probably really clip their wings a little bit. Yeah. It should anyway. Yeah. And the problem, what it is, apparently, I don't know if it's Rupert or his kids, somebody in that family apparently really has it out for Trump. Yeah. And then, as I understand, there's some lady involved at Fox in the administration there in the news department that also is a problem. Yeah. And she's the one that's causing a lot of the problem as well.
Yeah. So here's my prediction in this. 1 year from now, we could be getting ready for the national conventions, the Democrat and Republican. We could emerge from those two conventions with 4 candidates. You could see Joe Biden and Robert Kennedy.
As an independent.
One of those two as an independent. Or forming a third party, much like George Wallace did in 1968 when the convention didn't go his way. Mm-hmm. You could also see it with Trump as a nominee and perhaps either a Pence or Christie or the two of them running as a team as an alternative.
Oh, my goodness, that would be weird.
Yes. Now, what you just saw this week is Pence doing a nosedive to the point that Vivek Ramaswamy, my number 2, if I had to have a backup, right, is already in double digits. I didn't expect it this early.
Yeah.
He is. Now, if there's anybody who respects Trump and still is I'm still a candidate, it is Vivek. Yeah. It was Vivek that showed up on the streets of Miami when Trump was being indicted and said, this is a travesty. Yeah. This is a man of character, Vivek is. I'm so impressed with him.
Well, there's 2 people that Trump has not said anything negative about. It's Vivek and Tim Scott.
Yes.
Those are the 2 that Trump has not, which tells you something. What I've learned is Trump says a lot of negative things about people. But if he doesn't say anything negative about somebody, that means the ones he does say something negative about, there's usually something wrong with him.
Well, it could be either pragmatism or principle, or both. Mm-hmm. In this case, I think it's both with those 2 because it doesn't pragmatically help him to go after those guys. They're not a threat. And they're also not throwing the red meat. They aren't playing Chris Christie on him.
Right.
Chris Christie is nothing but negative.
Well, and let me reiterate something or rehash something that I've said before. And this is, again, Ron DeSantis. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's something that Trump hates above everything else. This is code number 1. Loyalty. Mm-hmm. For those, and I'm surprised how many people I've talked to, Republicans, strong, dedicated Republicans, have never seen The Apprentice. It's amazing. Yeah. Did you ever watch it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They did not understand. When we do our Thursday night, I asked, and nobody watched The Apprentice.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, but still. But I asked them if they noticed how this is so much like The Apprentice, and Ron DeSantis is so much like one of the people on The Apprentice that if you watch the teams that he always set up, the one thing that Trump hated above anything else was when one member of the team was disloyal to the team.
Yes.
if you betrayed the team in any way or let the team down, you were on that elevator, getting the limo back to the airport. Mm-hmm. And this is DeSantis to a T. Yes. And not only is he showing disloyalty, but he's gone to the Bush team. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't even believe that. And what this shows is that he's so desperate. DeSantis is so desperate to be somebody that he's throwing all principle out. He's going to a team that has already shown that they're not the ones to go to. Mm-hmm. Their stuff doesn't work. They're not the future of this nation and the Republican Party to take us away from the direction the country's been going this time. They're not the ones.
Right.
And so he can say, this is the other thing, everything else, he agrees with Trump. So why would you go with something other that he's not really proposing anything that Trump hasn't already proposed? And the things that he would do would be things that Trump wouldn't do and probably we don't want done. Mm-hmm. So why would you go that way? Mm-hmm. But again, this is what we're seeing. Whereas Ramaswamy and Tim Scott, the problem with Tim is we really don't even know much of what he proposes. He really hasn't put a platform out there. We really don't know. Now, Vivek, he's got some really strange and interesting new ideas that are really out of left field. But that's because he's of East Indian.
Yeah, his cultural background really.
But that's not what I'm even getting at. But it's the fact that I don't know if he owns a what do you call it? EFT? What do you call them? Electronic traded fund.
Bitcoin, if you will.
No. It's just exchange traded fund. Exchange traded fund. It's the newest thing. It's like a mutual fund, but it operates differently.
Oh, okay.
And it's called an EFT, but he owns a whole fund. Mm-hmm. I mean, which you got to have some big bucks. So trust me, Vivek has some money.
Well,
and he's a financial genius.
Here's it, and you need to have the ability to convince people who have money to believe in you and believe in your competency, your vision, all of that. Right. Yeah, and so he's impressed a lot of people.
Yeah, so he's a real visionary. He's up there in the strata with your Elons and your Lizard Boy. In fact, which would bring me to my next story here, which is it's a spoof, but anyway, but that's why I think Trump really respects Vivek, because Vivek is a young genius. And if anybody, I think, would make an incredible vice president, it'd be Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
At this point. And then, of course, see, here's what I don't understand about DeSantis. I really cannot understand it. He could so easily have positioned himself as a supporter of Donald Trump for president.
Yeah.
Just gotten totally behind him, gotten all of his people, everybody to support Trump, get Trump elected, and then wait 4 years, finish his term, 2 more years as governor of Florida. And by that time, it's already time to be running for 2028. Mm-hmm. And now you're the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it's his pretty wife, Miss Florida, or what it is that is driving him, pushing him. Something it almost reminds me of that, maybe I've said this before, that Mel Gibson movie, We Were Strangers. No,
Soldiers.
we were soldiers once and young, yeah. And where they're looking at the guy's training, and he says, the one sergeant major looks at the guy, so, oh, look at that guy, isn't he something? He says, he's eager. And he said, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
No, you told me about it this week on the phone.
Yeah, he's eager. And an eager guy will get his people killed.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the problem that I see as well with.
It's called the George Custer disease. He was eager.
Yeah,
too.
he was eager. Yeah, he was eager. Yeah, and so that's why, DeSantis is eager, and if you're not careful, he will get our nation killed.
Yeah.
You got it. Our party, especially, get it killed. So anyway, that's my political speech for the week. Probably not very congruent, but at the same time,
it was rich and a lot to it. One more thing about Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
In my last 20 years of really focusing on advocacy on mental health, I've learned while serving on the board and as a teacher and a trainer, there's something that's called the Bible on mental health, called DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. And it has now become the political correctness guide on mental illness. We're at DSM 5 right now, except Vivek Ramaswamy.
Sounds like DEFCON 5.
Yeah. Vivek is still operating on DSM 1, okay? He's old school, particularly dealing with gender issues. And he's just saying, the whole trend, that's all mental illness, okay? I believe that there is a very large component that is mental instability. You can tell by the co-occurring mental instability in these people who claim to be a new gender this week than they were last week, and next week might revert
Well,
back.
look at all of the recent mass shooters that were gender confused. Is
You
what
and
thought.
I talked about it after the Nashville shooting at the Covenant School.
The girl, yeah.
And I said, if that young person is getting testosterone treatment, too much testosterone in a developing youth, can lead to great aggressiveness, mental instability. That's why Eddie and I, you with the Low T Center, you're still supporting them?
Low T Centers of America.
You need professional, stable, reliable guidance. And most of the people practicing this, they are not.
Right. I
mean, it is dangerous stuff they're playing with, and we're getting more and more reports of this. But let me get back to Vivek. He's saying, look, largely we're dealing with a mental illness here. Largely. And, I don't want to put words in his mouth on this, but it takes guts to stand up against the political correctness of academia, who's all saying, oh, no, DSM says it, so it's the truth. Well, no, DSM says it's because it's mass platform psychosis to believe it. We are dealing with mass platform psychosis, not just about COVID technology, but about culture in general.
Yeah.
I mean, we have really got problems. We got a disconnect going on. Many of your neighbors, folks, are suffering mass platform psychosis. Okay? You'll be able to tell next year by which campaign signs.
Yeah. It's for those of you that are confused by the jargon or the terminology.
Yeah.
It's herd instinct.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
it's akin to the whole what we call groupthink.
Groupthink, right?
Because you want to be in and with and accepted by the in crowd,
right.
And so you just adapt whatever they're saying.
Right.
Because what does the media do? Anybody who disagrees with their leftist, they're called an idiot.
Right.
They called George Bush an
you're
idiot. Even though
you're worse now.
You're
You're a white racist Nazi.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, you're a bigot, a racist, and an idiot.
Homophobe.
Right,
da.
So anyway, it's a serious deal. Yeah. And Fox News is falling right in line with that. Folks, shut it off. Shut it off.
Mass psychosis to the max right there.
Yeah.
So, by the way, the Fox press pool. Now, I don't know how reliable this is after our last Fox story, but the Fox press pool has, no, I trust this. There are, listen, we don't want to get everybody. There are some good reporters at Fox still, okay? So we want to say this. But the press pool contradicted the Jean-Pierre, what's her name? What's her first name? Corinne Jean-Pierre. Her claim that the Biden family wasn't even there all weekend, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, so that couldn't have been their stuff, the cocaine we're speaking of again. Well, the problem is that they were there on Friday. They were still there on Friday. They didn't leave till Friday evening for their weekly getaway. He's there.
Right.
You know, it's funny when during Trump they were trying to talk about all the time that he was away at playing golf or doing this or this or this. Biden, they might as well flip it around and talk about the times he was in the White House versus away at Delaware or wherever he goes, Camp David or whatever. But according to the Friday, June 30th pool report, Biden gave remarks in the Roosevelt Room that afternoon and didn't depart the White House for Camp David until 6:34 p.m. Along with First Lady Jill, Hunter, and Hunter's son, Beau Biden.
So Beau was in the White House on Friday, too.
Yeah.
Hunter.
Hunter was there the whole time. So, however, Jean-Pierre claimed Friday, while angrily responding to a reporter's question about whether the cocaine belonged to a member of the family, that they weren't present in the White House on that day.
Yeah.
So, Corinne needs to get her stuff together.
And this is what's going to tell us whether or not we actually have legit Secret Service anymore. Because evidently they're in charge of this investigation. And if they whitewash it or act like idiots that, well, we can't tell what happened, then we no longer have a Secret Service.
I'm surprised that somebody actually turned it in. They've reported that it is cocaine. So now it's up to who actually discovered it and who did they turn it into? That's what I'm trying to find out.
But you know what? This is no different than the Rose Law Firm billing records of the Clinton administration. Remember, they were found by an usher or somebody, some clerical assistant, in the private quarters on the third floor.
Right, but it's not. But see, then after that, it's not them anymore. It's who is it turned over to? In other words, now I think it's been turned over to the FBI. Right. So it's up to the FBI. What do they do with it?
Now I thought this stayed with Secret Service. From what I heard on Newsmax this morning, it was Secret Service doing this investigation.
Well, we'll see.
Because look, FBI, that's not their turf. They get invited in, but Secret Service, it is their domain.
Oh, okay.
That building is their domain.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll see then. Yeah, then we'll see if they're truly neutral and are legit on this. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, and there's Secret Service people all over the country. One of my longtime clients, a good friend who now has moved to Houston, he golfs every day with a Secret Service guy who's just part-time. In fact, he called me up. He says, someday I got to tell you some of the stories that I've heard sitting in the golf cart going down the golf course. Of what he says, it's only when Biden goes up to Delaware he gets called in. He says, in the stories he's got to tell. He didn't want to. I mean, that's the quickest way to get fired, demoted, lose all your pension, everything is tell what you know about who wipes Joe Biden's butt. Because now I only say that because Joe came out to the press pool and actually announced that his butt's been wiped. Okay. I'm quoting the president. But this is just what the kind of indignant, the kind of base things that they have to do. It's part of your job. I'm sorry, you're looking at me like...
No, you know what it reminds... I'm just flashing on that Eddie Murphy movie. What is it, where he was the king of Zamunda?
Oh, yes, Coming to America.
Coming to America. Yeah. And when he says that, I can wipe my own butt, and the guy says, preposterous. Wipers?
Exactly.
and hit people. That was their job. So anyway,
Folks, that's a great movie, Coming to America.
yeah. There's some language and some pretty crazy stuff,
Yeah.
but it was one of you know what the key to that movie was though? John Landis.
Oh, really?
John Landis, the director of that.
Oh, yeah.
He did some of the funniest movies. John Landis and Mel Brooks, rest their souls. Neither one of them is living anymore, sadly. But those are two of the greatest. No, I'm sorry. Mel Brooks is still with us. John Landis isn't with us any longer. But those are two of the greatest comedic directors ever. Yeah. I was just telling my wife, I'm going to take a little break here from the news, but I was telling my wife there's a movie that, one of the many that Mel Brooks did is called Dracula Dead and Loving It. And it was a spoof on the Dracula movie that they did with Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. And anyway, with Leslie Nielsen was Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, if you get a chance, if it's on Netflix or Amazon, it's a movie I promise you need to see. But they have this scene where they're in a hall and the whole one wall is a mirror. And so he does this dance with this lady, and I don't even know how they do it, blue screen or something, but he's dancing with this girl. And he takes her, and you see him dancing, but then they show the wall. And, of course, he's not there because you can't see a vampire in the mirror. Oh. And so he's dancing, and he has her in the air. He's spinning her in the air. And then you look in the mirror, and she's just in the air all by herself. and, of course, everybody stops dancing because they're looking over in the mirror, and they see this girl in the air, and he's not there, Wow. But the Mel Brooks parts where he's actually in it, I won't tell you, but they're absolutely the funniest. Oh, which brings me to another thing.
Yeah.
The craziness of censorship and political correctness. AMC, for some reason, the channel, they, for some reason, love to show the film Blazing Saddles. But they have edited a bunch of because the N-word. Mm-hmm. And
it's a 70s movie.
Yeah. And Cleavon Little, who's the sheriff, he likes to use the N-word, and the people all around him are using it because they call him Sheriff Nigger, But so all through the movie, it's, hey, Sheriff, bleep, 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 bleep. and it's ridiculous that they're showing the movie and they keep bleeping out the word when, to me, it just ruins the movie because it was the movie. Yeah. And, but it's a Mel Brooks film again. And it's and there's this one scene where Mel Brooks is wanting to tell, the guy used to be on Carol Burnett's show, her partner.
Harvey Korman, Tim Conway?
No, it was Harvey Korman. So he's got Harvey Korman, but instead he has Cleavon Little. And he says, all right, what are we going to do with this, Nick? And then he sees his Cleavon Little. Hey, he's the governor. He's the governor, and Cleveland's the sheriff, and he's getting ready to say it, and he looks, I mean, just crazy stuff that back when we were a free nation, and black, white, Native American, I mean, they had Indians in it. And the Indians were made fun of. The black people were made fun of. The white people were made fun of. They were all, the white people were made to look stupid. They've got this girl who's supposed to be a German. Yeah. They made her look. I mean, no one was safe. No one was safe. I mean, Mel Brooks.
See, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And those were the days when we were truly free. And
Larry Flint got into so much trouble. In fact, Jerry Falwell sued him and lost. Well, Larry Flint's defense, he was publisher of Hustler, he says, my rule to my editors is offend everyone. You can't be called biased when
Right.
you're offending everybody.
right, and
That sounds like what Mel Brooks
that was Mel
doing.
Brooks. He offended. I mean,
It's a Don Rickles thing.
yeah,
you know?
Blazing Saddles. It made fun of everyone.
By the way, I've been watching some Mel Brooks. He had a somewhat frequent recurring role on the series Mad About You, which is on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like 6 seasons.
I didn't realize. I never watched Mad About You. That's probably
Debbie
right.
and I love it. We have to, because it's a joke. It's joke after joke about married life. A young married couple. It's Vicky and Eddie out in Pasadena or wherever you were in California. The first years.
Right, right.
It's that kind of thing, and it's great. But Mel Brooks, it's that classic Jewish New Yorker
Right.
comedy.
Kind of like Seinfeld.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. But
Seinfeld before Seinfeld.
it was even more stereotypical. The Jewish comedians in New York were just like above. Jackie Mason, you had all these guys. They're just fantastic.
Yeah.
And they had their own, deal.
It's interesting because I saw the shift happened towards the end of Seinfeld in PC, where one of the last episodes of Seinfeld, they did a thing it was Puerto Rican Pride Day.
Oh, God.
Did you see that one?
Yes.
It's one of the best ones they ever did.
Yes. Oh, George really blew it.
Well, Kramer.
That's right, Kramer.
It was Kramer, and
That's right.
he jumps. He sees Jerry and Elaine in this car,
Yeah.
and he jumps in this car, and he says, "Man, it's like every Puerto Rican and their grandmothers out here." And the guy turns around, and it's not Jerry and Elaine; it's this Puerto Rican couple. He says, "Well, it is out of day."
Yeah.
And he freaks out. It was a Puerto Rican couple in the same car, but they look like Jerry and Elaine from behind. And he jumps out, but just that line, every Puerto Rican and their grandmother. And then he jumps out and he's smoking a cigar and he throws it into this trash can. Mm-hmm. And it catches on fire and he's got this fire started. It's on the ground. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to put it out. So he can't put it, and they've got these Puerto Rican flags hanging all over. He pulls one down.
He's burning the Puerto Rican flag.
Well, not only that, it's on the ground. He starts stomping on this Puerto Rican.
With all these Puerto Rican pride people around
the
him.
whole everything is Puerto Rican, and he's jumping on this flag. It's on fire, and he's stomping on this flag, and it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And of course, everybody thought it was funny, but some Anglo liberal got upset and said, "Oh, you can't show this. You got to take that." And they pulled the show.
Oh,
it was like unbelievable how these people think. That was and of course the show went off the air at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of thing that changed.
That's what I like about South Park. As crude and irreverent as it is, thank God they're around to take on some issues.
Yeah, but you remember the big controversy? We're just babbling right now. I hope you'll enjoy our babbling because we're going to, believe it or not, we deal with issues. One of these is the fact when they did the thing on Muhammad.
Oh, yeah.
Muhammad showed up at the door. Mm-hmm. And they actually originally had a guy, they had this Muhammad character show up. Mm-hmm. But the heads of Cartoon Network, they wouldn't let him show it.
Yeah.
So what they did, they opened and they just had a blank space there for Muhammad showing up at the door.
Wow.
And they went through this whole deal, of Muhammad. And it just showed, and they were really, the guys were really mad. It created kind of a controversy.
And Eddie, as somebody who's owned a Christian record label, you You need to see the episode of South Park, Faith Plus One. It's when Cartman starts a Christian band.
Oh, really?
All the humor, the jokes, and I mean politically
I
incorrect.
can believe
jokes about black kids. You know.
Well, you saw the one of Mouse House, right? Where the Disney one, where Mickey Mouse turns into this giant monster and he starts cussing people and breathing fire and everything. I mean, basically, they were just showing that all these things that we think or we're led to believe are so clean and pure and all of this, you know, with these boy bands and girl, you know, like Britney Spears started on Disney and NSYNC, Justin Timberlake, and they were all in the
Aguilera.
They were in the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yes,
but it showed how they were trying to say how Disney really corrupted all these kids, and they take these kids and do all these different things. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just. I mean, South Park is crazy and sometimes raunchy as they get. They really pull back the curtain on a lot of these things.
Yeah, they do.
And what was the other one where they say the guys actually one of the writers was from ORU?
Timberland.
Was it?
Yeah, his last name's Timberland. But yeah, my son was telling me about him. We used to go.
And the one guy that they had the pastor or something was based on one of the chaplains or chaplain at ORU. It was. Yeah,
ORU in performing arts has had just incredible students come through there. We used to, my son and oldest son, who's in performing arts, we used to go to their Battle of the Bands they had during homecoming week. And several of those bands ended up getting national recording contracts, you know, and it One Republic.
Yeah, One Republic, yeah. What's his name? He went to Union and then ORU,
Yeah, and it just some great people. And here's the funny thing, Eddie, when my oldest son was 12, going to 13, he was really excelling in music. And I asked a musician at our church who's running sounds professional, and I said, how can I, as a parent, as a homeschool parent, how can I help him to grow in this? He says, you got to expose him to all music, all styles, and help him understand good and bad in all of it. But you're going to have to be there with him because you don't just say, here, just go listen to whatever you want.
You know, it's so interesting because, one of the things that helped us, are you familiar with Labrie?
Yeah.
Francis Schaeffer.
Yes.
The great Christian philosopher.
Yeah.
He, Labrie, they had all these great teachers and people there. Anyway, we went to this seminar with this Labrie couple way back when our kids were still very young. Mm-hmm. I think our oldest were like 6 and 7, and the younger ones were just born. But anyway, and the couple there, they basically said the same thing with their kids.
Yeah.
And they talked about how with their kids, what they did, they never talked to the kids about, you can't do this, you can't see this, or can't see that. So what they would do is go to concerts with their kids. And then after the concert, they would talk about it.
See, I went to a conference workshop while I was up at the Cornerstone Music Festival, and Edith Schaefer was there, and she was just talking about parenting.
Right.
And I got to talk to her a little bit afterwards about that, and it largely informed how my wife and I focused on, instead of always saying no, be there with them.
Right.
Because my wife's mother did the same thing. That was her thing. And so, not as a helicopter parent,
right,
but truly enjoy what's enjoyable with them.
Right.
And so, and that was especially true. The reason I say about South Park, my son started excelling on comedy writing and video production. And so, largely what he got was from SNL and South Park. Mm-hmm. And he won national awards for what he did, and here's the thing. If you don't validate the talents in your kids, they will go elsewhere to get that validation. And you might not like where they go to get it. And I'm saying not just to parents, I'm saying this to churches. You've got to find ways to validate the talents in your young people, instead of just shutting it down or disparaging it.
Yeah. Like my daughter, she like all other girls was just into NSYNC. I'm sorry, New Kids. New Kids on the Block.
Yeah, they were a little bit before.
She was only 11 years old.
Yeah.
And so my wife took them, her and her best friend, they got there like 5 a.m. to line up. Mm-hmm. I mean, for a concert it was at night. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was crazy. It was in Munich, Germany. And so then later, she wanted to see him again. And so I knew one of the guys that was on the promoters.
Yeah.
And so we were able to be backstage.
There you go.
So we were there backstage when they came in. We're just hanging there, and here comes NSYNC and all. And so here's me and my daughter. We're sitting on like a, I don't know, it was like a forklift or something. Mm-hmm. We're sitting there when they all walk in, and we got to see them. So she's sitting next to me, and we're watching them. And I won't name the particular artist, mm-hmm. but everybody would know him if I said his name. And one of the New Kids. Anyway, and so right after they came, it was them and Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Mark Wahlberg. And so Mark and his Funky Bunch went to one set of dressing rooms, and then the New Kids went over to our side. Then all of a sudden they bring in this whole, like a group of girls. And then they bring out Bleep mm-hmm. and have him look at these girls and pick the one he wants. Mm. And so my daughter, she's, like I said, she's like 11 years old, 12 years old. And while he's, and it's about from here to the door where we're sitting, just
about
like
10 feet.
Yeah, we're just sitting there watching this thing while he's picking, one of these girls. And so after the show, this was going to be his girl for the night or whatever, And so my daughter got to see a whole different side of the whole deal, And after that night, she wasn't as big of a New Kids on the Block fan anymore. But and plus the whole experience, she was like, of course, they put her right up on the front by the, on the rail, and she almost got crushed. And the guys she's one of the ones they pulled over.
She's a tiny little kid.
Yeah, and they pulled her up, and then I said, "You ready to go home?" Yeah. And so it was interesting because then we started leaving, mm-hmm. and as we're walking out, here's Mark Wahlberg. He was just a kid himself, and he was probably 18, 19, and he's walking out with us. And he's just the nicest guy in the world, And so I said, do you mind if I take a picture of you? I'm like, no. I turned around, my daughter's gone. She ran. She was too shy to have her picture taken with him. and then the guy who got us back there, he was trying to pull her around this corner. Come on. And she said, no.
Yeah.
And I'm just...
And this is the same daughter that now has done things like be nanny for
Mariah Carey's
and all
these,
family.
and all these, a lot of people,
Kids. So she got over her shyness.
Yeah, but he ended up signing this napkin for her, but he said, "It's okay, sweetheart, it's all right."
That's
but now she just regrets because she could have this picture, when she was little with Mark Wahlberg. Like I said, she was like 11 years old, but Mark was just the nicest guy. And he's a guy, I have to say, he's Catholic, very staunch Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if you knew it. He's very pro-life. He's a conservative guy. Oh. And but if you watch his movies, his language is awful.
Yeah.
His language is just terrible. Yeah. But he truly is a very moral and quiet, straight, strong devout Catholic. Well, you probably, Jews and Catholics, for some reason, have no problem with foul language. Have you noticed that?
Well, there's vulgar language, which is not a violation of one of the 10 Commandments.
I know.
Taking the Lord's name in vain, which I've said is often done more from the pulpit, from the pews. Right?
Yeah.
When you say, thus saith the Lord hath spoken, that's abusing God's
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
But vulgar language, which the Bible doesn't condone,
Right.
doesn't call it violating one of the 10 Commandments.
Right.
It's not all swearing.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't recommend it.
No.
And we don't do it ourselves.
No. Except I said but earlier. Oops, I said it again.
Oh, man. Yeah, I got delivered the night I got saved instantly. I had one of the foulest mouths you'll ever hear, and it's something I have to say, truly it was a miracle of God.
Yeah.
It just went away instantly, and I don't know how, but because I could not help.
And one of the biggest things is stay away from listening to that.
Yeah.
Because, what did Isaiah say when he's invited into God's presence? He says, I'm a man of an unclean tongue, and I dwell amongst a people of unclean speech.
Yeah.
And so it's the people you hang around, or as Proverbs says, bad company corrupts good manners.
Well, Paul says it too.
Okay, there you go.
Corrupts good morals.
Yeah.
He says corrupts good morals.
Is. You know what's interesting, Eddie? Is
We're covering many bases here today.
We're talking about parenting here, and this is really important. Eddie, I think you and I relate to a lot. We're both very proud of our kids.
You're proud of yours?
Oh, absolutely.
I can't stand mine.
I've always said this to them ever since I grew up. I said, look, all I'm asking is for a front row seat to get to enjoy what you accomplish in life and what you go through. And like yesterday, I'm out there putting siding on my son's house. I'm helping him build his house for his family. And it's getting to be a part of that, enjoy it, or even if it's just on the phone, being there with him. And it is so cool to be a part of that. And the funny thing is you watch how, like, your daughter at one age, I can't even, it's kind of like Wayne and Garth, we're not worthy kind of thing, and shy away. And then maybe 10 years later, they might be chewing him out for something,
Yeah.
I remember my son, one of the top bands in Oklahoma, one of the founders of it, Chad Copeland. In fact, they missed out when the record label gave the contract to the Fray. It was Hero Factor, was the name of the group. And one day he's with me, he's like 13, and I stop at Quick Trip, and then I'm getting in the car. He comes in, Chad Copeland was in there. I said, oh, just say hi. I can't talk to him. And then, 8 years later, he's chewing out Chad because Chad didn't provide all of the equipment at his recording studio when my son booked it for a whole week, and all of a sudden, like, I'm not doing business with you anymore. You don't got to, I remember, it was 8 years ago, you were scared to death to be, and it's so neat watching your kids develop.
Yeah.
From those preteen years to in their 20s, and all of a sudden they're on the roll.
Yeah, it's funny. You see the change, how they do mature. Speaking of your kids and jealousy, my one son, the Coast Guard, the pilot, he's in Germany now with his family. And he keeps sending these photos, of food and in the Alps and this and I'm just, making me miss the motherland, the Mutterland, or no, fatherland. We call it motherland, they call it the fatherland. So
because you're born in Germany to German mother, but dual citizenship because your father.
No, I don't have a dual citizen. I could get it, but I never did.
Well, you were qualified for it.
Yeah, right.
Right, because your father is American and your mother is German.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, let's end with this. Did you have anything else?
I have one other thing.
Okay.
Ryan Walters, our state superintendent of public instruction, is coming under investigation because of an audit on how COVID funds for education were handled. And it was part of a group he had I think Every Kid Counts, or I forget the name of it, but it particularly, and this was part of my conversation with Randy Crable last week, is that it wasn't managed well, and 5 private schools were given a head start or first opportunity to apply for these funds, which ran out, and other families who may have been in greater need for these funds
Didn't get it.
Now, this was $6,500 for displaced private school kids who, their school shut down.
Right.
And it was to find other means, tutoring or whatever for them. Well, some of those schools, Catholic schools and other Christian schools, and were some of them don't even charge tuition. They get funding otherwise, fundraisers, church offerings, whatever. But according to the audit, it wasn't managed well. And it amounts to, I don't know, is it $30 million? There's other areas of bad management and stuff, but it's particularly when you go to certain select schools and say, we're not opening this public but you guys go ahead and apply. The government can't do that. And I'm waiting to hear what Ryan Walters' response is. Right. Yeah. And, you and I wanted to invite him back in here. He's been a guest.
Right. Now, this happened in 2019.
It was in 2021, 2021 school year.
Oh, it's 2021. Right. It was before he became Secretary of Education.
Right. But he was still, he was Secretary of Education. He wasn't super.
That's right.
He wasn't in elective office yet, but he was running a kind of a special, he had a group that was.
Okay. See, that's what I didn't understand. That's how it came under his responsibility, because I thought that came under the Secretary of Education.
No.
I mean, not Secretary, the Superintendent. I thought that was...
Right, yeah, that was the thing that confused me. Because, wait a minute, he's only been in office here for 6 months.
Right.
And, no, they said this was in that, but he was serving as Secretary of Education under Stitt's cabinet.
Right.
And then he also had this group. And now this funds, a lot of it was spent by public schools, because it was under Joy Hoffmeister, some of it. But there's this massive amount of money, and it was kind of divvied up.
You see, that's what I'm still trying to figure out. What did she have to do with it? And, I mean, how did get all that clear?
It was a large group that was divvied up and operated under different entities.
Right.
Department of Education handled part of it. Walters handled part of it. And what was advised early on was that they get somebody to monitor it, such as maybe the Secretary of State, somebody who had good clerical skills, could monitor reporting and transparency. And even, Mike Mazie was a name mentioned. It would be good. Here's the thing. They ignored that advice and didn't run it well. And it just makes it look like, okay, you're not ready for prime time.
Right.
And perhaps he needs to just own this one.
Right.
But we'll see what happens.
Now, let me ask you this, though.
Yeah.
What happened because I also had heard earlier that there were millions of dollars that were missing or misspent in the public school system, found in an audit.
I know.
Has anything ever come of that?
Yeah, and on top of that, add the layer of suspicion that people have about Cindy Byrd, our state auditor. Mm-hmm. Because you look at how she went after Epic, targeted Epic in a very, suspect way. And we're still waiting to see through court and all, what the truth is on that, how much of it is true. Because you see her teaming up with Joy Hoffmeister in the past, going after Epic. and stuff, and she pretty much gives Joy Hoffmeister this just clean bill of health.
Is she another one of these rhinos?
Well, that's the suspicion here.
I mean, it seems pretty clear she joined up with Hoffmeister. Now she's after whatchamacallit.
No, she was really promoted by Gary Jones, who was the auditor for 8 years preceding. Now, Gary and I know each other.
Right.
We've worked together. He tried to recruit me to help run his campaign when he ran for governor. And I talked to him a couple of years ago at the state Republican convention about the whole Epic mess. And Gary, it's classic Gary. He says, that's not the way public education's supposed to be run. Nobody's supposed to get rich off of it, da-da-da-da-da. In other words, he hates the whole idea of Epic, what Epic stands for and everything. And I know that Gary Jones had that bias. So his top lieutenant, Cindy Byrd, it wouldn't be surprising to think she has a bias. Where I think they miss it here, you take Tulsa Public Schools, Broken Arrow Public Schools, they've had all kinds of scandals with contractors, even the heat and air people that manage all their facilities,
right.
and that they're making money hand over fist.
Right.
And it seems like that's all fine.
Right.
But all of a sudden you got the founders of Epic that step out of the way of running it and just say, you know what, we will be a contractor handling the financial funds to make sure everybody's money's accounted for. And they get a fee for it, but that fee makes them pretty wealthy. And all of a sudden they're spreading the money around in the Republican Party amongst candidates. And part of it is, don't come down on us and shut us down for politics, because believe me, they've been...
Well, that's what the OEA does.
Exactly. And so you've got lots of people making money off of public education.
Sure,
but
sure.
Gary Jones was more incensed about how Epic was making money.
I see. It's that typical.
Because I honed in on, he says, that's not the way public education is supposed to be managed. In other words, he has this preconceived notion, and somebody's outside the box, and we got to make them pay. We got to make an example out of them. And this is my concern about our state auditor. Because I look who she's getting in bed with politically, and it does bother me.
Yeah, we need to find out what's happening with these other investigations over the public schools and the money that's mismanaged there. Is she as concerned about the millions, if not billions, that have been misspent there as she is about that Ryan Walters million.
And remember when we had a year ago, Lena Ashley sitting at the table here, she said, they found out some money was missing, and it was a perfect opportunity for her to call for an audit. And we need to have Alina back in to find out what the status is on this, because Tulsa Public Schools is notorious for
give her a call. Let's do it. And if when we find out nothing's been done, then what we do, we go and we then call Cindy Byrd's office and challenge, and I'll go to the media and say, okay, you guys are all up in arms about Ryan Walters here. What is going on with this?
Yeah. So that's my last story for today.
Okay. Well, I've got one that's kind of interesting. There's a new. Some of you may have been following, but Facebook now has developed a competitor to Twitter. Yeah. And I can't remember. Do you know the name of it?
No.
Oh, I've forgotten what. But anyway, it's a I don't even know what you'd call it's an interactive site which allows you to tweet. To tweet.
Yep.
But instead of being Twitter, it's a Facebook version, okay? Mm-hmm. And what they've done is they've taken all of the things that people disliked about Twitter and they've ironed those out. For example, Twitter, I think you're held to 120 characters or 240, but theirs is like 500 and some characters, so it's twice as many. You can put photos, you can do this, you can do this. So it's a new and improved version of Twitter, basically.
It's called Threads.
Threads. So, and they've instantly got all these new members, okay? And of course, there's this big rivalry between Elon and then Zuckerberg. There's this competition. And you may also know, have heard, they're supposed to be having a cage match, a fight, which is going to be on pay-per-view or something between Elon Musk and Zuckerberg. Well, on Twitter, there's a parody name. It looks exactly like Elon's, but in parentheses it has parody. So it's not really Elon, but it has a little blue check mark. So, and this is to the beauty of Elon. He allows it to be there. So it's like somebody has ripped off his own Twitter handle, but they just put in parentheses parody.
Yeah, as long as they disclose that they're not the real
Right.
Elon.
But I almost wonder if it's not Babylon Bee doing this.
They're good friends, you know.
I know. So this is from the Twitter Elon Musk parody. Okay. This is Elon Musk. As the owner of Twitter, I'd like to share an important message with the world. Dear Zuck, Lizard Boy, Pencilhead, I'm fighting for freedom. You're fighting for dollars. I'll bet you in that cage you stand no chance. Best, Elon, who's your daddy? Musk.
Oh, yes.
So this is Elon's response to Zuckerberg for starting his new threads. And they have another one. It's a parody of Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's another one, and it's responding to Elon's.
That's a brilliant marketing ploy.
It is. I mean, it is. It's fun. And this one already has thousands of followers on this parody one. And you'll probably get a bunch for Marjorie Taylor Greene's too.
Listen, if it's not the Babylon Bee guys doing it, then Elon needs to do this. He needs to hire some writers to write some red meat stuff like this.
Right.
That gets people signing up.
Oh yeah, but this is hilarious. I mean, you follow this Elon, and then every now and then you have the real. It used to just be a lot of Elon. He would tweet a lot, but he's been busy doing other things.
Yeah, no, I think Elon probably, if he doesn't, he should have a team, and I think the guys in Babylon Bee would be smart people to invite to be on that team.
Yeah.
To create narratives like this.
But doesn't that sound like a Babylon Bee type of thing?
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Elon, who's your daddy, Musk?
You know, he's done so much for Babylon Bee, and they've done a lot for him. They've done 2 podcasts now with him. And in fact, he says it was the last straw for him was how Babylon Bee got kicked off at Twitter. He said, okay, now I got to go buy it, get these guys back on. Yeah. And but this would be a brilliant move.
Yeah. Let me say this. I want to encourage everyone out there, if you're not on Twitter, I really would encourage you to support Elon and go to Twitter.
Yeah. So I've got some news on this. Elon has just sent a cease and desist letter to Mark Zuckerberg. He said it appears.
Yeah. He's stolen, his employees have stolen technical.
My oldest son has been part of these kinds of contract, non-disclosures and things like that. And what he's alleging is it appears that several former high-level employees of Twitter are now working for Meta.
Right.
In using trade secrets from Twitter to bolster a competition.
Right.
And this all depends on, what the state laws of that particular state is, because every state's different. Fact is, when my son was going to work for one of the New York companies that he worked for a while, we hired Gary Richardson just to advise him what does state law allow, because my son was listed as an Oklahoma employee, therefore Oklahoma law. And Oklahoma is more favorable to employees regarding non-compete clauses. There really aren't any. It's just trade secrets that you cannot share. So we'll have to see what happens here. And if a lawsuit is filed, then under what jurisdiction that lawsuit will be. Because you remember when Apple and Samsung had all these fights over smartphone technology, and Samsung would file them in Seoul, South Korea, their headquarters, and they'd always win. Apple would do it in Silicon Valley, and Apple always won. It's like, who owns jury pool?
Right. Well, here's the thing, too. And this is where Elon's going to have a little bit of a fight, because the government is so infiltrated and run by the Democrats, and they kind of hate Elon right now. So he's going to have a tougher fight on his hands. But really, if they broke up Microsoft back in 2000, the late 90s, early 2000s, if they broke up Microsoft because of having too much in one bundle, remember that? Because they had a search engine and they had the...
They were using one monopoly to prop up another monopoly.
Exactly.
That was predatory.
Right. So they really have to break up Facebook or Meta. It's called Meta now, is the overall, because Meta has Facebook, it's going to have Threads, it has WhatsApp, and Instagram.
The fact is, you have to have an Instagram account right now in order to create a Threads account. Right.
So they're going to have to, which my advice to you right now, if you don't have money invested in Facebook, go buy some shares. Just buy 2 shares. It's a couple of $100 right now. It's still $270 or something like that.
For what reason?
Because when they break it up, you will then have a share in every company. So like when they broke up Marvell into 6, you had 1 share in 6 different companies. When they broke up Microsoft, you had a share in the various entities. So if they break up Facebook, you would have a share in Threads, you would have a share in Instagram, a share in Facebook, you have a share in WhatsApp.
Yeah. And our federal government right now is doing that. They filed a lawsuit against Google, Alphabet.
Right.
And because they are far worse. You think of, they own the hardware of your Android phone, they own the search engine, of course, they own YouTube and all that. And what the government's going after them on is the advertising setup.
They have YouTube too.
Right. Yeah, YouTube. And they're using one to prop up another, and it's making it impossible for competitors.
Right. And Google is cheaper, by the way. It's only $160 for that per share.
So
and if you're smart, you can go on Schwab and you can buy what they call slices.
Yeah.
At $5 a pop. So for $5, you can own just a piece.
Yeah, you don't have to buy a whole pizza. You buy a slice of a pizza.
Yeah. So you buy a slice of Google, slice of, and you can put $5 a month, $10, whatever you can afford. They'll let you do that. But when they break these companies up, you will own a slice then of each part of this. It'll be a smaller slice, but still, as each one grows, it'll grow with you. Just a piece of advice for you.
And then another, if you do buy a full share, it also gives the opportunity to go speak at their stockholders convention.
Yeah, which everybody's just dying to do.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Hey, there are some. Fact is, who was it? It was a stockholder at Berkshire Hathaway. He gets up to speak, and they arrest him. Yeah. And he was on the agenda.
Yeah, and they had to apologize, and
he needs to sue them.
Well, I think he is. I
hope so.
Yeah, I think he is suing them.
But he also needs to sue the law enforcement agency who colluded with the company.
Right.
Because that's clear.
Oh yeah,
you can't do that. That is actually in federal court, because that is a civil rights violation.
Yeah.
That is a federal offense.
Yeah. Hey, in closing, let me just say again that if you're a man and you're over 30, especially if you're over 40, be sure to look into the Low T Centers of America. They're one of our sponsors, and I can say one of the reasons that I'm still somewhat healthy, I believe, is because I go regularly for my testosterone supplement, and Dave uses testosterone as well. He's his own dealer.
I'm losing weight.
Yeah, well, it helps you.
do.
Yeah, because you're feeding your muscle instead of the fat. I mean, that's one of the benefits. But I've had many more. I've talked about it before. But anyway, if you live in Tulsa, then down in South Tulsa, just by Bixby, it's 106th Street behind Hideaway Pizza is your low T center in the Tulsa area. So give them a call, look them up. And we want to encourage you to have a great week. Pray for our nation. Oh, also, a surprise, we didn't get to talk about the movie that's out.
Caviezel's movie.
Yeah, Jim Caviezel. What is Sound of Freedom? It's called The Sound of Freedom. It's about child trafficking and how bad it really is. This is a film that was pitched to every major studio, and they turned it down. And it was released last week, and in its release, it beat Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
At the box office.
Yeah.
It beat Indiana Jones. And it's only going to take off from here because it's just starting to catch ground. So I encourage you to go look for it and go see it. The Sound of Freedom. It'll touch your heart. It'll make you cry, and it's real. This is a real problem. It's a real situation.
Can I give you
The children, what's happening, what's being done with the children, and the sad thing is, what's going on at our border with the thousands and thousands of young children that are being trafficked and brought into the United States and sold into prostitution. And the Biden administration, Mayorkas and them are doing nothing. You could call him a pimp. The Biden administration are nothing but pimps. It's tragic, and I'm not using hyperbole.
Yeah, and one factoid I got this morning on news coverage of it. If you take all the money from every major league sports league in North America, put it all together, it wouldn't be as big of an enterprise as the sex trafficking.
Yeah, it's trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
It is. I heard that, and I can't believe it.
The
But
other thing they said is about 1/4 of it is underage sex trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a big deal. And look, just go find out what we're dealing with. Okay.
Yeah.
Just go find out.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on Low T Center are professionals that are specialists in it.
And don't think of it as sexual enhancement and all that. There's so much more that it helps you with. Just as women need estrogen supplements as they get older, men, our testosterone starts depleting as we get older, and we need a supplement of testosterone as we get older.
I'll tell you, and this is somewhat related. For me, I felt clearly I was dealing with low-grade depression coming on. And I'm like, what am I dealing with? And my annual checkup doctor says, hey, let's run a test on this. Sure enough, I was low. What I'm saying is, I might have gone to another doctor who might have put me on psychotropic drugs for depression. Instead, I got a more natural rebalancing of what was missing, and I didn't have to go the mental health route. And I will say this, my wife thinks I'm more pleasant to be around. Okay? Because the mental health aspect.
Right.
I'm not.
No, I understand.
Okay, there. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Hey, God bless everybody. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.